On Saturday, February 10th, former U.S. President Donald Trump stirred up another round of controversy after hinting that the U.S. would not defend a NATO ally that didn't follow through on its financial commitments on military spending. He added that he would even encourage Russia to invade. The remarks drew criticism from leaders of NATO member nations, while many members of Trump's Republican Party brushed off the comments, or even defended them. Well, let's unpack this whole situation for today's video, and what it might mean for Lithuania. At a political rally in South Carolina, Trump told his audience a story about a conversation he allegedly had with a leader of a NATO ally, someone that he called a quote-unquote big country. Trump tells his audience what this other person said to him.
One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
NATO's member nations have all agreed on a target to spend at least 2% of their gross national product on defense. However, in reality, it's estimated that only 11 NATO member nations are meeting this target. At the moment, Lithuania is one of those countries, spending about 2.5% of its GDP on its military. So let's look at the two sides of this situation. The first is the danger Trump's remarks pose to the unity of the alliance. While spending 2% of GDP on defense is part of the deal, another much more important part of the deal is mutual protection. As EU Council President Charles Michel said, reckless statements on NATO security and Article 5 solidarity serve only Putin's interests. Pro-Putin and pro-Russia trolls love to remind the West of two things. One, that the fine print of NATO's mutual defense agreement is that member nations can decide how to help out allies, and countries can provide any form of assistance they deem necessary to respond to a situation. So assistance is not necessarily military and depends on the material resources of each country. It is therefore left to the judgment of each individual member country to determine how it will contribute. And secondly, the other thing that is often brought up is that if Trump becomes president again, he could either withdraw from the NATO alliance or choose not to help a NATO ally if it were being attacked. The comments made on February 10th certainly back up this second point. It's unfortunate that NATO allies have to even guess or calculate whether or not the United States would help out in the event of an invasion, something that shouldn't even be a thing. Yet in the intensely polarized and heated political climate of the United States, it seems to be a possibility. There's one thing that seems to be overlooked when it comes to this discussion. What happened in December 2023 in the United States? It was at this time that US Congress approved a measure aimed at preventing any American president from unilaterally withdrawing the United States from NATO without congressional approval. As part of the most recent National Defense Authorization Act, the president would be prohibited from withdrawing from NATO without the approval of 2/3 of the Senate or separate legislation passed by Congress. The move was specifically a response to long-standing concerns that Donald Trump would try to exit the alliance if he returned to office. And what about the other side? While I think a lot of what Trump says ranges from extreme exaggeration to complete lies meant to enrage his supporters, I reluctantly can actually see what he means about NATO members not paying their fair share.
NATO was busted until I came along. I said, everybody's going to pay. They said, well, if we don't pay, are you still going to protect us? I said, absolutely not. They couldn't believe the answer. And everybody, you never saw more money pour in. They all owed money, and they wouldn't pay it. I came in, I made a speech, and I said, you got to pay up.
I have no idea what quote-unquote big country Trump was referring to, but I wouldn't even be surprised if it were my home country of Canada, a nation well known for coming up short on its defense spending. In fact, in the spring of 2023, it was leaked that the Canadian Prime Minister admitted that his country might never meet its military spending target. Whether it's Canada or not, it doesn't matter, because a lot of other countries are in the same position. A Politico article from July 2023 noted that France is set to spend 1.9% of its GDP on defense, while Germany was only at 1.57%. That same article stated that Luxembourg, Belgium, and Spain were the lowest spenders when it comes to percentage of economic output. A very, very recent report shows that many more countries, including Germany, will meet their 2% spending target this year. In fact, 18 of NATO's 31 members are expected to meet the threshold. So maybe it will all be less of an issue in the future. In a way, I think small countries are okay to rely on larger countries like the United States if they're a part of the same alliance. The US has the largest economy and the most advanced military. However, This reliance on a big and strong ally should not allow those small countries to abandon their commitments on the issue. Just because America spends about 3.5% of its GDP on its military doesn't get others off the hook for reaching that 2% target, especially at a time when international relations seem so tense and divided. But to bring all of this together, I think there is still a real danger in any current or potential American leader projecting a position of disunity within the alliance. Additionally, it's unbelievable that any world leader or potential world leader of a free and democratic nation would actually encourage Russia to invade another country, whether it spends enough on defense or not. That's just awful for international relations.
If you want to quibble with NATO policies like spending targets, fine, that's fair game. But it's dangerous and insane to just announce that you'd encourage a Russian invasion because you're annoyed at certain NATO members.
There is no doubt in my mind that NATO's enemies see all of this and will try to exploit it as much as possible. That being said, Trump does have a point about countries not holding up their end of the bargain. If they want to have a seat at the table, they should be complying with everything that's required of them. So how would Trump's position impact Lithuania if he becomes president of the United States again? I guess at the moment, it wouldn't have any kind of direct impact. Lithuania is currently meeting its military spending target and is even host to US troops at the moment. I actually think that a lot of Lithuanians would agree that other NATO members should be meeting their 2% defense spending targets. I'm not familiar with the intricacies of Lithuania's national budget and how it currently finances its military, whether it's through debt or sufficient taxes. But I can see that Lithuania wants to spend more on defense, and this might only be accomplished with higher taxes. That's going to be an interesting situation, since no one wants to pay more in taxes. That's most definitely the core dilemma for most countries who aren't meeting that 2% target. No one likes to pay more in taxes, no matter what country you're from. And it's simply a suicide move politically to raise those taxes. And so when it comes to the military and national defense, it's one of those things that you pour money into, hoping you'll never need to use it to its full capabilities. But on the surface, it doesn't really appear to be benefiting society as a whole, not in the same way as healthcare or education. Furthermore, I think countries further away from Russia feel like it's less of a threat and thus prioritize other types of spending instead. I do think, however, that Trump's inability to play nice with others could disrupt the fragile unity among NATO allies. This might only serve to embolden Putin and give him the idea that he might be able to capture more territory without being confronted. That's my take on it, at least. What do you think of Trump's latest comments, and what do you think this means for Lithuania, if anything? Let me know by leaving a comment down below. For the Lithuanian word of the day, let's go with sutartis, which can mean deal or agreement or contract. Sutartis. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.